and Community Committee meeting for the new year. Hope you all had a good break and are all raring to go for the new year. So first we'll call for apologies, and we have His Worship Mayor Brian Cadogan. There was Dean McCrosty, Dane Catherwood and Bruce Volweiler. Has anybody heard anything from Councillor Mackie? No. Have somebody move those apologies we've received? Thank you, Councillor Graham and Councillor Kennedy. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Any declarations of interest? No public forum and no deputations. So for a start, we're going to award a Bronze Star certificate to the Regulatory and
Community Facilities Office.
Community and Facilities Operations. So would you all like to come forward, Kelly team? Good. Congratulations. Congratulations. So it's my pleasure to be able to present that to whoever wants to take it. Well done.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us something about it?
Yeah, well, Kelly,
Yeah, I think it was a really good program. I took a lot from it, specifically with tools I can have to better time management, my tasks and prioritise things. And also I think better ways to communicate and empathise with other people. I think it gave a lot of insight into people's different personality types and how to deal with it. It's quite powerful.
Wonderful.
For me, I found the program really valuable. I really enjoyed that I was able to get a lot more confidence out of having courageous conversations. Probably a big thing for me, but I found it overall really awesome.
Right.
Just apologies for the rest of the team. A lot of them worked quite hard during the Christmas break, and this is the period where they chose to take that moment of rest. I think for me, so I've been a senior leader for some time, I found the project the program particularly powerful for middle managers who maybe have been exposed to some of the tools of management very often. And I've already seen the impact that's had on staff and the changes they're starting to implement. It's also, I think, given us some new language inside the organisation to share ideas and to support each other in a better and more effective way. So a very effective program. Thank you.
Well done. Very good. All right. So moving on to our first agenda item, and this is an item for decision. Olivia, would you like to come forward, please? Planning update report. Oh, did you want to present from the, sorry? Do you want to do that at the start?
Yeah, I'll do that now.
Sorry, forgot all about that. Apologies. From our risk and assurance workshop, just going through the notes. Humble apologies. Sorry, Olivia.
that man is presenting, is it?
That man is David.
Batman.
And a number of you have heard, so looking around the room, Councillor Phelps, you're probably the only one that hasn't heard this so far, so I'm relying on the rest of them to correct me if I misfits out or get things slightly wrong. But it's around the RNA workshop, which was held on the 28th of January, primarily for the purpose of developing the 2025 work programme. So the agenda and the background information was circulated to all councillors prior to Christmas, and many thanks to those who provided feedback, which was incorporated into Wednesday's discussion last week. During the workshop, we considered the traditional reporting format of agenda papers, noting that information which is helpful to our decision making, what we don't need or what we don't need with the same regularity, and also any further information that would assist in our decision making. We also discussed the continued need for reports to be duplicated at other committees, given that all councillors receive the RNA agenda and have the opportunity to speak and attend RNA. During the day, there was some potential crossover to governance-related matters, but we quickly acknowledged that governance is outside the brief of RNA. So those changes suggested at last week's Wednesday meeting and further discussed and reaffirmed today include, firstly, terms of reference. So we noted our comfort with the risk management framework and internal control measures, which are reviewed at least annually. We discussed the regularity of engagement with our external auditors and were satisfied that the two main opportunities provide probably everything we need, but we do have access to the external auditors anytime we like. The most significant change we made to the terms of reference is actually to combine internal and external audit functions. And this was done simply because we don't have internal audit at the moment. We're not planning to resource for it or to fund for it in the future. With respect to duplicate reporting, there was a degree of discussion on continued need to duplicate reporting from RNA in the morning to committee in the afternoon, and it was acknowledged again that all councillors received the RNA agendas. But equally, it was noted that for some councillors, they don't have the opportunity or ability to attend meetings in the morning. From a staff perspective, questions were asked about the best use of staff resources, particularly attending 2 meetings, noting there's often limited discussion in the afternoon and rarely, if ever, are the morning's decisions brought to question. So the outcome to that was that reports will continue to be appended, duplicate reports will continue to be appended to afternoon agendas, but either myself as RNA chair or my nominee will speak to those reports rather than the staff who did so in the mornings, and we will continue to review that. With respect to risk management, we had a detailed discussion on the risk management dashboard items and the priority impact on council, noting the impact of changing legislation, changing community needs, and the impact of climatic things, like the bombs that we get from time to time. We observed that a number of the items identified separately with operational or governance responsibilities. It was suggested and agreed that a regular deep dive report will be presented every second meeting, and the first of those was done today. And as an aside, the next one has been identified as failure to manage response to the impact of central government reforms. During the workshop, we also added additional items to the list, which were firstly potential cost increase of waste management, and secondly failure to manage regulatory relationships. In respect to capital projects, councillors have variously expressed their concern to me of debt levels, debt repayment, cost of debt, project delivery. Currently, reports on projects containing aspects of these matters reported to the PC group. That group, however, is not an official committee of council. Councillors were keen to ensure that these reports and their impacts were formally received and debated, and it was recommended that today's meeting of the PC group be its last, with those future papers destined for PC to be now appended to RNA agendas, and RNA in future will start at 9:30. And there was some subsequent discussion on that this morning, and it was agreed that we will continue to monitor and review the effectiveness of that change. On the subject of Three Waters, there was lengthy discussion on many aspects of the topic, acknowledging council's decision making will probably be the most significant for the remainder of this term, and through conversations we acknowledge that you'll be receiving a briefing from the Chief Executive on the 20th of February. Treasury reporting, some new presentation slides were given to the workshop for consideration, happily received, and they're quite specific in terms of borrowing activity source, projected borrowing requirements, and the cost of capital impact. Also, some pages are proposed to be withdrawn from the traditional report. NECO will be reported every second meeting now on, and external treasury management report quarterly. Financial reports, again, significant changes to those reports with a focus on exception reporting, and also we're going to be putting monthly forecast figures beside each line and introducing monthly cash flow reports. Non-financial reporting, the key changes going forward are refined focus on exception reports, and again, removal of a lot of information which has been contained in previous reports, but there's very little or no comment. We talked about training. It was a two-part discussion, noting things that councillors might be interested in right now, and secondly, any message to the new council and how they should invest in training. And some of the things that were raised during the day were included treaty in Waitangi, attendance at post-election inductions, reading financial reports, and the role and responsibility of elected members on a 24/7 basis, not one day a week or certain other views of that, code of conduct and standing orders. And finally, it was agreed that the residents' survey be undertaken this year in February, March, and the results be made available as soon as possible. And also after election, considered an opportunity to source options for self-review. So that's what we discussed last Wednesday, and again was reaffirmed today. And again, just in concluding, I wish to express my thanks to everybody who attended, who shared their thoughts and who contributed in a very beneficial way, which will enhance the value of the R&A committee. Thanks, Madam Chair. Happy to answer any questions or...
Any questions? There's not. Thank you very much for that. We'll continue on. Now, Olivia, thank you. Welcome.
Kia ora. So I've put a bit in the report today. I'll briefly summarise and then we can take the report as read. So there is a question there regarding a hearing commissioner, Louise Taylor, for an upcoming hearing that we've got. Our team is continuing to work on the national planning standards for the district plan. In the forestry space, you would have seen that there has been some legislative changes regarding conversion to forestry, and we are monitoring that. But in the interim, we're actually working internally at council with various staff members to look more closely at forestry compliance in the district. And myself and some of my team also went up to Dunedin on Friday and met with ORC and DCC to see how we can have a collaborative approach between the different councils, because ourselves, DCC and ORC are the ones that have by far the most involvement with forestry in the region. So Central Otago, Queenstown and Waitaki do not have as much. So that was a really good meeting. We're keeping an eye as well on all the other RMA legislative changes which are happening. You'll note there as well that we've got a mention of our reduced operational level service for noise. We've got a new staff member, Bly, who has been working in our team and will be doing so until May. Bly's helping us with a lot of project work and a lot of collaboration with other teams to improve some of our systems and processes, which has been really great so far. And for the first time, our team has had to report on it for quarterly for our closer stars. We continue to get 100% on our resource consents and stats, which we are very happy with. And we also sent out a survey to both our staff here and external customers, such as our surveyors and planning consultants, and had overall good feedback, which we're happy with. Aside from those things that I've mentioned, I'll take the report as read, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for that. Anybody have any questions for Olivia, please? As your new staff member here to introduce.
It is actually. Bly, would you like to wave?
Stand up and give us a wave.
Welcome, Bly.
Hi, thank you very much. Welcome. Councillor
Thank you.
Rupert.
Just a quick question, Olivia. Great report. Just some clarification around the announcement the government made on the 4th of December about the trees.
Yes.
I thought when the Prime Minister announced that, his wording was kind of effective around it was going to take effect from the date of announcement, which would mean immediately. Did I get that wrong?
You've got it mostly right, so I can go into that through the chair if you're willing. So there's a moratorium on aspects of it which went into effect instantly, but they're actually looking at other aspects, the regulations, and they're going to come into effect in October 2025.
Yes, I do. Yeah, you've got about the intended changes, and you talk about the regulations. So two just a little bit slightly separate things. Yeah.
It was a collective announcement they made.
Yep.
Something was the moratorium effective immediately, but there'll be other things coming in October this year as well.
Partly right, thank you.
Yes, that's right.
Councillor McAtamney.
A little tick.
Yeah. Thank you, Olivia. So just further on that forestry note, I see there's been work done around the catchment, water catchments in forestry areas. Will some of that be retrospective potentially, or will it be for any new plantings? Because there will already be a lot of forestry inside those catchments. So how's this going to roll? Yeah.
So through the chair, are you referring to that when there's new forestry legislation introduced, whether we'll still be able to look at compliance aspects, and if it only be for newer forestry
Or stuff
plantings?
that's already been planted, will it be retrospective if somebody's planted in what we decide is a sensitive catchment for our water takes? Yeah, what may happen there?
Through the chair, I don't know the answer to that question. I can certainly investigate it. We're not sure exactly what the regulations are going to look like, which are coming out. I do know that even at the moment under the NESCF, which is what we operate under, even if forestry has been undertaken and planted, if we notice any compliance issues, we can certainly action them. But it's a bit of a wait and see approach, but I can speak to you separately once I've looked into that for you. Maybe a regional council matter as well, if it's to do with the waterways.
There could be some real conflicts here potentially.
Yes, I think we'd all be interested in seeing the answer to that one.
Yep, sure.
Yes. Therese, any further questions, Councillor
Thank you, Madam
Payne?
Chair. Just around the question of Louise Taylor as the Hearings Commissioner, we appoint, we pay. Are those costs recoverable in any way? They are?
Yes, so through the chair, all the costs associated with the hearing, which includes the appointment of commissioner, is 100% we charge back to the applicant. So council doesn't bear any of those costs.
Good. Yeah. And she seems very good. She's got a very good resume here,
Oh, good to
by
hear.
the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions, discussions? Councillor Graham.
Through you, Madam Chair, just on the noise control, and I read there that 32 of the complaints were for 2 addresses. Now, are these after hours? And they have 32 complaints. Was that all on the same night, or?
Through the chair, no, it wasn't all through on the same night. We basically looked, when we were looking at this option of a reduced operational level service for noise, looking back at the data to see what trends we could see. And so those 32 were made over the last year. Yep, the last one.
So are they someone having wild parties, or is it something that is happening in the like some sort of industry, or is it?
Yeah, it's wild parties would be the answer.
Oh.
So we had a couple of people that really like having parties.
Can't give me the address.
So yeah, does that answer your question? Not all on
Yeah.
the same night over the last year,
Thank you.
and it's not for industrial noise or commercial noise. It is for stereos. So yeah, parties.
Right, no further discussion, questions?
Happy to move all 3 recommendations if you'd like.
And I'll second that.
Okay, yep, that's fine. Thank you for that. So 1, 2 and 3 all been moved and seconded. Yes, it's Councillor Payne that seconded it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you for that. So moving on to page 22. And welcome Debbie. This is an item for information, and you'll see Debbie went around and handed out all these beautiful cards. So good. Congratulate the team on them. They're wonderful.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone, Madam Chair. So this is an update really since our last report. The data is November and December because at the time of writing we didn't have the January stats available, but some of the activities sort of flow through January, so fairly broad ranging. Just some key points, particularly around the statistics. In terms of visitors, these have been quite interesting. I don't know whether you've noticed that the domestic visitor stats have gone down a little, but the international visitor numbers have been huge for November and December, up 55% in November compared to November last year, the year before, 2023. And the December stats up 31%. And talking to staff, a lot of people, Australia and Germany and China seem to be the 3 destinations that keep, or places of yeah, so it's really, really heartening to see lots of tourists coming through, lots of people using the gold trails. Catlins, as always, very, very popular. In terms of the libraries, again, very busy places. Our visits to all of our facilities, we had 83,880 people through at the doors of our 6 facilities in the 6 months to the end of December. That's up 19% on the year before. So very busy. Digital sessions, there's always that digital connectivity and digital help, up 11%. And people are still reading books, which leads me to what we led with the paper here on the summer reading program. I really wanted to put this up front and centre because this program was a collaborative effort by some of our younger staff in all of our branches who worked together over a number of months to design something specifically for Clutha. And one of the things that we struggle with is our district is made up of lots of little towns that have their own flavour and their own histories. So the program was based upon the traditional premise around summer reading programs that have traditionally been run by public libraries around the world, actually. And it's to address that summer slide. There's a lot of evidence to show that when children have that long summer break, not only their literacy levels fall back, but it often shows up in some of their other learning as well. So most years, in previous years, our libraries have really run sort of family broad-based programs. But this time, and we haven't seen such an uptake, like we had a lot of people joining, but they weren't completing. We weren't keeping them engaged throughout the program. So this time, our staff got together and they went, okay, well, let's just focus on the kids. And that's exactly what we did. And these cards, they were really looking for a way of somehow connecting our little towns and creating something for the wider district. So they worked together on these cards. They did the research on them, they created them, they designed them, and we developed them in-house completely and printed them in-house. And they were, the reason why we went down this road is because we noticed last year one of the supermarkets had a trading card thing going. And the kids were coming into the libraries after school and they were trying to swap these cards over and things. So they used that same premise and that same level of engagement. We knew the kids loved these things. So as you notice, they put a couple of rare cards in there as well. So they were a big deal to get one of those. So they used exactly the same format and we had swap meets and things over the school holidays. So the kids were kept engaged right throughout the program. And I've given you some samples of some of the anecdotal feedback we got from it. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Graham.
Through you, Madam Chair, a couple of things. By the look of that photo at Tapanui, you need a bike rack. But I see in Milton the library and eyesight figures consistently over the year increase for about 50%. Cycle trail?
Yes.
Most definitely.
Yes.
Good.
Absolutely. Milton is, as a lot of the community feel, is very much poised for growth, and I think everyone's looking forward to next season when there won't be so many roadworks. And then I think we'll see the full effect of some of those visitors coming through town. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillor McAtamaney.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Debbie, how are you going? Are you in charge of relocating the library in Milton?
Yes.
And how's that going? Or are you on something in the pipeline?
Yes. Not quite ready to announce yet.
Yeah.
We just need to work on a couple of things, but yeah, we're hoping in terms of been working with Donna, who's project managing that project. We're looking at moving out of the library in June, relocating in June. So we're working to that date. And we've got a bit of a track record. We've moved the eyesight a couple of times, so it's like it'll be another temporary shift.
But Madam Chair and councillors, they're adding more to it in that sense that we're not looking at replicating the same level of service.
No.
With the relocation, for the period of the relocation.
Yeah, I can just to expand on that a little bit. We will still be offering the range of service, but not quite the same amount. So essentially, it's mainly the books we will scale down. We will still be offering the same hours of service. The staff will still be there providing the same range, they're able to answer the same ranges of queries and things like that. But what we'll do in terms of the library collections, because they take up space, is we will basically operate it like mobile libraries are operated in other places. So we'll have a very, very small collection. And actually, we're lucky because one of the staff members actually lives in Belclutha and commutes down there. We will turn over those books on a regular basis. So as people go in, if they're regular readers pop in every couple of weeks, they'll see new stuff there every couple of weeks, because we do recycle our collections around the branches. And the branches actually we operate Belclutha like the book bank, and the branches can choose whatever they want from it.
So then you'll have somewhere organised for storage as well for the books that you haven't got on display.
Yes, yes. We will work that out amongst our other branches, because we do actually operate as a district library service. Yeah.
I just had a question about the man as a card collector, and he said he was very impressed with the cards and how well they looked, and you said you should send them to the US and get them rated in a place due to how good they are. Is that happening?
We're thinking about it. I mean, it was interesting feedback, and the staff were very, very surprised to get it.
Yes, that's really great, because they look top notch. They really are good. Well done, and congratulations to them from us. Pass on, but they've done a really great job. Did anybody have any other questions, discussion, comments? No? And back to the recommendations. And do we have a mover, please? It's just to receive. Thank you, Councillor Graham, and a seconder. Councillor Phelps, all those in favour?
Aye.
That is carried. Thank you very much. And moving on to page 35 for the next agenda item. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. So this is for information also. Thanks, Debbie.
Kia ora koutou. Welcome back to 2025. Obviously a slightly reduced report this time due to activity either ceasing across the Christmas period or not having new information for you. A couple of points to note. I was really pleased with the performance of the team for 2024. I set BHAGs, which are stretch goals effectively for them. Everyone achieved their stretch goal except for one area, and there were reasons for that. So we'll bring that into this year. So overall, very happy with that. A couple of things around Taylor Park. So we have now reinstated the grass as we said we would do, and that's hopefully growing in the not particularly scorching summer just yet. We have now sold all of the 4 on site and 5 and 6 cabins. Sorry, that was all 6 cabins. 2 more of them are still at corrections, and we have relaunched the marketing to declare those 2. Cabins 9 and 10 have been terminated with the agreement by correction, so that project is now effectively at an end. In terms of Taylor Park camping ground, so we're continuing the works there. You'll see some photos in there with the new entryway, where you reuse some of the materials we had planned to use on the cabins to form that entryway. The digital marketing campaign goes live in 2 weeks, and the arm will come down for the first time, and then we'll be on a digital platform effectively. That is all now in an active negotiation with FENS, so we will not leave them out of that conversation. And we're having a bit of a chat to them about the best location for their fire track effectively for the future. Probably enough. I'm happy to take the rest of the report as read and answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, anybody? None at all. Councillor Martin.
Through you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Kelly. The Clutha Parade, how did that end up this year? Because the last couple of years they've been running at a loss. Did they break even this year? Or?
So, thank you for the question through the chair. I actually don't know the financial situation. I will find out and report that back to you. The BHAG we set for that was the best parade that we could remember. And I think the numbers basically doubled this year in terms of number of floats. So we know it was very impactful. I will need to find out about the finances, however.
Yeah, I spotted that in your report there. I was just wondering how it went because, the last couple of years hasn't been terribly good. So.
Was really, really busy. Lily did an excellent job of getting people to enter, and sitting on the float when we were waiting to go with the youth council ones was just brilliant to see how many floats there were and the people down the main street as well. It was chocker and it was a really great vibe. So I'd like to get you to pass on our congratulations to her from that as well, please, because I think for her first time she did an extremely good job. Those others that were there would have noticed, and it just went off so well. It was really good. We couldn't have got a better day, and yes, so many winners, and there was so many brilliant floats. Councillor Phelps.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just regarding the telepark for the fire, is this for competitions or is it just for practice?
No, it's actually for competitions. One of the questions I had for FENS was, we're going to a lot of effort to accommodate you. Want to be sure that that works for everyone. What can we do to help you bring more competition into town? If they bring their competition in, they bring people, they bring money, and they make the park vibrant. So it is for competitions. They do have some plan for the future, and again, we'd like to work more with them to bring more competitions in.
So we've got an indication on how many they're doing at the moment. Is it 1, 2, 10?
The next one that's planned is for middle of this year, I believe. So they had to cancel one last year because the grounds were not in a fit state for that competition to be had. I believe you'll be talking about 1 or 2 a year at the moment, but it does seem that the calendar is changing at the moment. They have made the point that at the moment those competitions are not as frequent as they have been historically. And in the past, that park was considered a very good ground for those because it was actually a sports field, very flat, good competition space.
Point I'm sort of trying to get to, I guess, is I note you're going to lose two campsites. So is that the funding from that, is it balance out or is it not worth it? Or?
Sorry, excellent question because I've been struggling with that myself. Right now, the camping ground is not full enough for us to lose any money from not having those 2 sites. So it's not a super urgent issue to resolve. I also think that given that the pool will be moved long term, we need to think about how that entire site is used for a camping ground. Certainly, there are ways of improving tent locations, for example. So at the moment, there's no financial cost to leaving it where it is. We are doing a cost exercise to say if we moved it, what would that cost? And then if the park becomes particularly busy, we would obviously make that assessment at that point.
Thank you.
Further questions? No, there's a recommendation back on page 35, I think it was. Somebody like to
move.
Receive. Thank you, Councillor Herbert, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Ludeman. Any further discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Say aye. Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Kelly. And this is an item for information as well, and Kelly's going to stand in for Mike for this.
So thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few notes from Mike. He wanted to update you about the pump track at Moore Park. So he just got some notes for me. So his pump track has been proposed for Milton. The project was initiated by some local students and is being coordinated by Project Bruce. At this stage, Project Bruce believe that they can draw funds from DIA and there would be no cost to council. He's put at this stage anyway in brackets, so we'll just keep an eye on that. Its location would be in the southwest corner of Moore Park, which is flat and less prone to flooding. Project Bruce are looking at doing some consultation, which will start next week and last for about a month. That will include articles in the Genesis and Leader, and they are also engaging with neighbours of Moore Park as well. So far, the feedback they have received has been positive, and staff are working with them to ensure that they meet the requirements of RMA and that the park, once complete, is easy to maintain. So happy to submit that and take any questions on the rest of the report.
Thank you for that. It's a good update. Councillor Herbert.
Just a comment I see in today's paper, there was a pump track in Dunedin, I think it was made, it looked like it was made out of plastic, it sort of clicked together, so I'm not sure whether that's of any interest or not, but there's a few interesting things in the paper today, but that was one of them.
Made out of plastic.
Yeah, and it just clicked together. It was like the size of this room, and it just looked like it, you know.
Oh.
I don't know, look, it could be good, it could be bad, I don't know. Just as long as people are aware that option may be out there for us to look at, that's all I'm making the point.
Thank you for that.
Makes things
Really
clear,
understood.
councillor.
Comments, questions? No? Then would somebody like to move the recommendation on page 54 that we receive the community projects update report, please? Councillor Graham and Councillor Herbert. All those in favour? Those opposed? Thank you, that is carried. Thank you for your time. And now Malcolm, welcome. And this is an item for information as well. Building and regulatory team. Welcome.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. It's good to see that the building consent numbers are holding reasonably static with the previous 12 months. So I think there's only about 3 consents difference for the year to December, which is really quite good. It was a slight drop in value of works, but not as much as I was probably expecting, which is also another a good signal for us. We've obviously gone live with our objective build program. Just a quick check tells me we've issued approximately 60 consents through that system. We're getting some pretty good feedback on how it works, but we also have a few people with teething issues as well, so we're working through those as we go. It's really good to see that probably 4 or 5 parts of our process have actually sped up quite a bit. It's interesting when you start breaking it down to see the time changes on some of it, so it's a really good positive outcome for that program. Animal control, I see we've got 98.5% of our known dogs registered. That's really good. It seems to be quite typical that you always get like the 1.5% that are the stragglers that we have all the problems with. I guess that's probably about all I've got to run on that one. So, yeah, Madam Chair, if there's any questions from the floor.
Any questions, please? Councillor Graham.
Through you, Madam Chair. I can't actually find it here now, but there's something about you visit the people who haven't registered, known dog owners that haven't registered their dogs, right? So if they sort of give you a finger, what happens then? What's the process after you visit them if they still don't register their dog?
Through you, Madam Chair, there's obviously a process there that we have to follow through the legislative requirements, and basically it ends up where they will result in infringements for having unregistered dogs. We do regularly receive monthly payments from the courts for those infringement notices. So,
oh, yeah. Okay.
Further questions, discussions? Welcome. Nothing of the building stats? Appears not. Okay, would somebody like to move the recommendation, please? Back on page 57. Councillor Ludeman and seconder Councillor Phelps. No further discussion. Motion, all those in favour? Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you for your time. That brings this meeting to an end. Look at that time. Goodness me.
To the Corporate and Policy Committee meeting. Firstly, call for apologies. I have Ned Cadogan, Councillor Wheeler, McCrosty and Catherwood. Any other apologies? Can somebody
Happy to
please?
move, Madam Chair.
Herbert and Graham. Any declarations of interest? Usual business. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Got there. Right. No urgent business, no public forum. Okay. First, Collective Developments Quarterly Report, Linda. Welcome. Okay, we'll go.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to be here again in the start of 2025. I've just got a couple of things to mention within the report, and happy to take questions. It's great to see that there's continued community interest in the land and house package, and I've met with the representative from Owaka. So we're just starting the preliminary discussions there and just looking at availability of land, and they've got some ideas, so that's good to see that starting as well. We completed a piece of work around looking at options for housing and growing that housing portfolio across the district, and we did a piece of work around a community housing trust, and as a board we're going to continue those discussions. And it's more around the assisted housing on the continuum of, so it's not social community housing, it's moving up the continuum towards assisted housing programs as well. And so we thought it would be a good idea to invite stakeholders and to listen to some other successful models that run around the country. So we've got the Queenstown Lakes Trust, we've got Dwell, which is a not-for-profit organisation that's out of Wellington, and we've also had a meeting with Habitat for Humanity as well. And so we're going to look at having a stakeholder forum in, what date's that? 25th of February. So it's an online session, so you'll all receive an invitation to participate in that forum and to learn a little bit more about if it could be an opportunity or an option or something that could be considered for the district. Job listings, they always go quiet over the Christmas summer period. They're picking up again, and there have been a number of jobs that have been relisted for more than a couple of months as well. But it's good to see that continuing, and had a meeting this morning with Job Opportunities, so it's great to see that what's happening there, and just the coalition and collaboration with their businesses to get our young people into work as well. The other thing that following on from the Careers Expo that we had last year, and about access to tertiary education opportunities for young people and also for other people within our community, was the barrier for transport was identified. So we've looked at what does the community need, and we've done a survey. We didn't get a huge response, but there are people that are interested in travelling to tertiary education opportunities and what that might look like and how we might be able to make that happen across the district, and have had some discussions with the Ministry of Social Development and the Regional Commissioner about that as well. So it's very much a scoping exercise at the moment about how we can access that, those educational opportunities. And it's a little bit hard with the situation around Tapikanga and understanding what the future looks like. But we will continue to look and see how that might work for our district as well. Last year there was a growth summit planned, and it was around the Regional Infrastructure Fund, and it was in Dunedin, and it was postponed. It has been rescheduled for the 18th of March with Minister Jones attending. I think it's more now around Minister Jones and his investment in growth around minerals and mining, but also there have been a large number of applications across the region. So now it's more around looking at regional focus and where the regional focus for opportunities can be. So that forum's on the 18th of March. I assume that the Mayor knows of those dates.
Sure, we'll find out.
And marketing continues, and there was I've put an example in there of an article that appeared in the Women's Day, and I just wanted to show you the time lapse. So Tourism New Zealand were down here in April last year, and the article appears in November. So sometimes there's a bit of a long lag between when it happens and when it actually makes it to media. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. That's a brief summary, but happy to take any questions. Should you have any?
Any questions for Linda? Oh, probably the community cash service trial.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, it's still not public. It's not public knowledge yet. So we're just working through the process with the Reserve Bank around finalising what may or may not happen in the future.
No, that's fine. Thank you. I'll just make a comment on the training awards. What a great event that is annually, and it was very well received again this year, I think, by those that received awards and those that attended. I sat at the table with ones that had supported their staff through the process and were very supportive of the evening, and it's a good way to showcase these people that, you know, from all different walks of life. Those that go to varsity or wherever, they get acknowledgement at the end of their training, but so often those that do training on the job and through the trades, etc., don't get that opportunity. So it was great. Thank you.
I think one of the highlights from last year is that a training provider that attended the event they've agreed to come on as a sponsor for this year. So that's, I mean, that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, no, it was good. Councillor McAtamney.
Yes, through the chair, Linda, you talked about that investigating some of the assisted housing program, and then possibly running concurrent with the current land and house packaging. Could potentially be a bit of conflict there, in that I'm coming from the point of view where I assume the assisted housing would work all over the district. Assisted ownership. The land and housing packages that the council have done, part of that has been with the aim of revitalising some of the smaller towns and villages. With assisted housing, that would mean the option would be to maybe go take that up in Belclutha or Milton or some of the bigger places where
I think we're just looking at interest in how that might work, and there may be an opportunity to collaborate across the land and house package as well, because as we know, they're community driven and community led. But we've got different communities, but there may be council could become a stakeholder in the land and house package. But there are different ways to do different models. We're just trying to understand what other people do elsewhere to improve and grow housing. I'm waiting to hear on the details of what it looks like on the ground.
Yeah, that's why I wonder whether it would support the land and house package rather than being as a side to it.
You know, it's all about working it together, and that's the whole idea. We wouldn't do one in contrast to another. It's about, are there other opportunities that we might be overlooking that could be also community or stakeholder driven?
Yeah, you don't want to take away from the options of those land and house packages in those areas.
No.
I might be just confusing myself a wee bit here, but
that's not the intention of exploring these options. It's just that some of these community house trust models can become chips, which opens them up to government funding as well, or different types of housing. So we're just trying to look at, they're not competing, and if they are, then we would be looking at, well, actually,
Yeah,
this
I'm
model
meaning
works.
is people preferring to, okay, let's go with the community housing model.
Yep.
And but they can choose wherever they go, whereas if the land and house packaging, they are encouraged to take those up in some of those smaller towns to help revitalise them. So it's sort of slightly, potentially slightly different.
Just through you, just a question, that speaker event, are you, without going into the operational details, are you anticipating or expecting any pushback or protest in relation to that event at all, Linda?
Could well be.
I know it's a ticketed event, so that's
It's a ticketed event.
one thing in that sense. So just,
We are mindful.
yes, okay.
A ticket selling. Yeah. That's good. Positive. Any further questions for Linda? No more questions? Okay, we've got a recommendation on page 3 to receive the report. Is somebody prepared to move? Councillor Fouts. Councillor Funch. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried. Okay. Is Peter?
It's not here. I'm not doing this one.
I'll chase it up.
Bye, ladies.
See ya.
Yeah, it's usually knocking at the door.
That's quite all right.
Members of the committee,
Okay.
technology, live streaming was not live. Just to introduce this paper, there's just a couple of comments I'd like to make. I know that there was, first, we've got a new member of staff. I'd just like to introduce Ye Miao. He's joining us as Senior Policy Advisor, and as indicated in the paper, page 12, comes with significant experience. There's a couple of corrections to attachment A. I could leave those to later if you'd like, just to correct when we get to that point. In questions on CCT funding, similarly, the policy notes a reference to an appendix that was dropped but didn't come out of the background. With that, I'll take the report as read. Madam Chair.
Questions for Peter, please. No questions.
I was just going to say, Peter, I hope you're not going to do too much work on the nuclear weapons-free policy.
It's interesting you should raise that point. Ye and I have been discussing that just earlier. No, we won't be.
A question around the reimbursement of fees policy. I see it's for 26th of June.
Thank you.
Is there any chance of bringing that forward so that it would perhaps be done before annual plan discussion decisions?
Madam Chair, you're very kind. Yes, definitely. It's more, it would be more timely to bring it forward. I've been discussing that with Sharon, and we'll basically make sure that does happen. So you have a proper
I think
ability
it would,
to talk.
yeah, it'd be better
Yes.
to have that done and dusted before other decisions are made through the annual plan. That would be my comment on that one. And the CCTV, for your recommendation there, for us, for testing of the policy. So are you wanting some clarification? What you're wanting there? Are you wanting us to kind of accept that this is a draft, go out to consultation to those groups, or?
Yes, Madam Chair. Yeah, so I thought it would be useful to bring it to you at this point as a draft, in case you had thoughts about it. Obviously, we've had a lot of community interest about CCTV, and I need to repeat the history. This hopefully will provide clarity to the community. We've got one outstanding obligation, commitment in relation to Kaitangata, and we indicated that we would talk to them in particular. So given we've got two current funded groups, it seems sensible that we actually talk to them and see whether this makes sense, and that can then inform other communities that may choose to come to us, subject to, of course, council liking the approach.
I guess that would be the comment. So we go to the community groups with this draft. They would have to accept that it is a draft and it still has to come back to council. It wouldn't be, it's not a given as it's a draft, and in case there were changes made, I probably, that would be my only comment.
We will take their advice. Well, council will take their advice on board, I expect, but obviously it makes the final decision.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Hubert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question revolves around the policy as well. So just wondering, Peter, that just given this is sort of new ground for us, do we start from scratch, or do we borrow a template from somewhere else? Because all these policies, when they're new, you don't know what you don't know, and I'm sort of hoping we don't repeat some mistakes that other councils perhaps made, and we hit the ground running. So did we start from scratch, or did we sort of start with a hybrid model from some?
So we didn't have a policy.
That's right.
Some of this policy was informed by reports that we previously gave council when other matters came up, a little bit. But the substance of the report has basically been taken from looking at what other councils do, plus looking at the legislation and the requirements in particularly the Privacy Act, and just common sense.
That answers my question about the other councils. Thank you.
Councillor Graham.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So can you just clarify that policy as it sits there will be the one that is sent out as a draft form to Kai Promotions?
For consultation.
For consultation, yeah, thank you.
Any further questions for Peter? I don't think I have. So we've got two recommendations there. I think I could.
Happy to move both, Madam Chair.
Seconder, please. Councillor Payne, second. Put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion's carried. Thank you. So, thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Trey.
Through you, Madam Chair, as decided at the Risk Insurance Workshop, this is a duplicate report from this morning, so I'll be talking to that.
That's only there for people coming that so they can be heard by the live streams.
Okay. So the management accounts were presented this morning, as most of you all know, and there was key points discussed. The key points of discussion that we had were around the receivables and prepayments in the balance sheet and what made that up. And excuse me, and that's about accounts we've billed but we haven't received the money for yet, or accounts we've paid but we haven't allocated them out to their specific cost centres yet. And that was an explanation for the question raised at a previous meeting. And there was a question around why the rates were lower than budgeted for the year to date, and that's around a decision made when we set the long-term plan budgets to set a rate in a water scheme and then to build it up over time to catch up with, so that they didn't get a massive increase and then little increases. It was going up, stepped in a much nicer manner. And other discussion was around the next meeting we're going to be focusing on projecting financials out to the end of the year and including a cash flow for risk and assurance. But this report will still come to this committee. And we will have more exception reporting and risk and assurance and more clarity around categories as we have to report in the annual report. Splitting out water, things like that, and water expenses as a separate line. There was also a discussion around interest income, cash versus non-cash, and how we report that and how much of our depreciation is funded. And there was a question of staff, did they have any concerns? And at this stage, they don't, because they haven't done the half year yet, and they'll be looking at it a bit more, and that'll come to the next meeting. So that's...
And we're going to include rate arrears. Okay, sorry. Okay. Any questions for Sharon, please? That was a good overview, actually. I think that was a good positive, to be fair. Reporting back as discussed. Any further comments and questions? Okay, we've got a motion on page to receive the management accounts report. Someone prepared to move? Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Payne second. I'll put it to the vote. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion's carried. Page 22, the financial account, no, the investment portfolio update report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So same with this one. So this one, we had a unrealised gain on our portfolio in November of 588,000. We had a loss in December of 356, but we did reinvest 173. So that, is the difference that hits the portfolio. Since this morning, I have heard the January results, and we had a $450,000 gain.
Woohoo!
Gains are good, but isn't it?
Gains are good.
2 months to go.
2 months to go, yeah. So, Greg also outlined some summaries from 2 quarterly reports we get from our borrowing and our investing advisors, and they were pretty technical. But the biggest one, I think, to highlight is to just be aware that the US election has an impact on both our borrowing and our investments, and we probably haven't seen the end of that curve yet. And yeah, I think that was it. Thank you.
Any questions for Sharon regarding that report? No questions. So it's a recommendation there to receive the investment portfolio update report. Someone prepared to move? Councillor Herbert, Councillor Kennedy seconded. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion's carried. The development properties update report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve may want to talk to us in a bit more, but I just want to give you an update. Sonia and I were catching up this morning about this, and just an update on the subdivision out the back here, that three of the sections out there have been signed up. Ooh. And so the income from all 3 of those added together is 516,000.
Excellent.
No, I was just going to say, if you hadn't updated it, that's what it is.
Brilliant.
We're actually still waiting for titles for that.
Yes,
development. There was some
no money. We've got no
officials in that relating to the broadness of the underlying subdivision that included all of Sukigawa as well. I think there were some things that you need to get taken off titles. So there's been some work that will slow down some the finalisation of the titles to that. But otherwise, it's going well. Rosebank Industrial, I think there's really only one section left, I think, Sonia. Is it one, I think? We're almost at the stage where we're almost there where we can close off the books for Rosebank Industrial. If we can get to the stage of that last section sold, the resource consent, or the long drawn out process of getting the resource consent for the stormwater and the landfill monitoring has been issued. The actions for the subdivision and the end results of the legal actions that we had with the neighbour around the contaminated ponds, that's all complete now. I've seen the titles issued for that, so we're looking to start fencing. Jules has got that sort of job to oversee fencing and separating, so it becomes our land, the landfill becomes our land. And also that the final step on that one will be, again, Jules will be overseeing. We'll work with Russell Richards Contracting for him to use his equipment, and this is his contribution to the problem, where he'll be responsible for doing the material works to reinstate the batter at the landfill, to remediate the landfill in accordance with the consent, and to shift a bit of dirt within Rosebank as a consequence. So that's happening. And then finally, we've also got the global consent it's been with the ORC. We're just waiting for that to be issued. And the global consent relates to the underlying issue of contamination, which should have been addressed when we first did the subdivision, was never picked up by anybody, including ORC, until much later in the event, after many buildings had been built, and then saying, actually, you're contravening certain aspects of plans, and you'll need individual consents every time you want to do a building. And we said, well, that's not good enough. That's not what we expected, and we've got enough information to say that that shouldn't have been the case. So what we said we would do is do across all the titles consent. We got everybody to sign up to that, and we managed it. That just meant that people should be able to do what you expect them to do without a resource consent. So that would be the last thing when that's issued. If we put all those things together, we can finally say and give an end to the total project of Rosebank Industrial. And it highlights that every time we want to touch something that was from an operating sawmill, there's something there to deal with. But at the end of the day, despite all that, there is industrial land that's been taken up and being built on and used, which is the whole reason why we went for that. But it'll be good to sort of close the books and end that with all issues completed. So we'd move to a monitoring phase, and that would be us. So we're nearly there with Rosebank. Otherwise, there's we're not taking any further action at the moment on any of our other developments because we're waiting to see how Rosebank Terrace goes in terms of take up.
Okay, any further questions for Sharon or Steve with that report? No questions, so we've got a recommendation to receive the development properties update reports. Councillor Finch moved. Councillor Payne second. Put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Moved. Now, the team report, Sharon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take the report as read, but just add a couple of little points. We're going to add a section to this report to report quarterly on rates arrears, because a couple of councillors have asked a question about it. We just thought it's good to have it there, and how much it is, how many properties it relates to, how many people are in credit, because some people do overpay their rates, things like that. We're also going to, Sonia and I have been looking this morning at a better way to report on the fees reimbursement scheme and the hall funding to show the budgets alongside it, to give a bit more clarity around that. And this is also the first time we've brought our Clue for Stars report to you. And so just to explain that a little bit, we're reporting, one of the things we're reporting against is our ERP implementation, because we have to have that in by 1 July, and it's got a whole lot of red boxes here saying we're not doing that good. And that's the KPI we've included at this point is based on how, in a month when we get a query, how many we're answering. And I'm not sure that that's the correct way to report to you, but we wanted to put something in. So we're starting with that. And
but Sharon, what we are saying, and
is we're not meeting it.
No. What we are saying is that we will be meeting it for 1 July because it's a hard deadline.
It's not negotiable.
Not negotiable.
And there's some comments there why we haven't met some of the other targets as well. And so there's KPI. There's a KPI there as well for staff safety, health and safety, how we go about that, and customer satisfaction, which we haven't engaged in that yet to do. And at the very bottom of the second page, there's an action plan. We hadn't completed that at this point, but I can tell you now our stock take percentage of our action plan was 18%. We were only doing 18% of it. And now we're doing 35%. So 18% wasn't a very good starting point, and 35% certainly improvement. So look out Q3. And other than that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Sharon? I've probably got a question around the fees reimbursement scheme. And I guess this will come back to when the policy, perhaps I might be overstepping it, but I'm concerned about how quickly the funding is going out, and it is important that we have a really close watch on that, because there's no way we're going to stay within what is budgeted to that. So I guess that's a query question as to where to from here going forward.
Through you, Madam Chair, the budget is the budget for that, and yes, you can only apply for it if you apply within the policy. So they are interconnected.
Yes, they are.
They're interconnected. So if somebody applies and they're within policy, it will be granted. So I guess that's something for you guys to bear in mind when the policy comes.
Yeah. But also, Madam Chair, like, as you will be aware, and the councillors will be aware, there's two other things that dip into that. Two other main things. One is the house and land package. So when we sign up to house and land package, so Katanga's been doing that for some time. When the others start kicking in, this will add into it as well. They actually get reimbursement of $7,500 per for consenting related fees, resource consent fees, those types of fees, as part of the package. It's another reason why we don't give packages out willy-nilly. They need to be those community-led packages, right, rather opposed to every single developer getting that. But the more uptake you have of that sucks up the money really easily. It used to be okay when I think we used to have 2 houses in Kaitangata per year, but we have moved over the years to approve more housing than that because of the success of the program. So that dips into this quite significantly, and is a reason for yearly deficits, because basically these are approved and it just goes over budget, which is then advised. The other thing around that is there were annual plan decisions by council on 2 occasions to approve reimbursements for whole consenting costs, not limited to the $2,000. And those were council decisions that were made. So they'll be also 2 reasons why this year that account's going to be in the red quite significantly. And yes, from an LTP perspective or an annual plan perspective, the question is always how much do you want to put into that, or do you want to change the policy completely around what you deliver and that. And I think one of the issues with that type of scheme is it seems unreasonable to have a scheme that has, let's say, a limited amount of money and a policy that can apply across the district, and effectively allow for those that are the early applicants and punish the later applicants that are still eligible. And you've never done that. You've never done that approach, but you are then left with what are your controls. And at the moment, the controls were the $2,000 limit, so that had some control on it. But we've got the things that are just outside of control, is the 7,500 for the house and land packages, and those other decisions.
I just thought it was a good, I just felt as I wanted to highlight it before we probably get into that discussion around policy and everything else. It gives you time to think about it. When I was here, we never used, they kept being carried forward. We always had a credit balance to carry forward, and it just shows you how times have changed. Our hall hires and lots of the costs have gone up, and so obviously people are getting more out of it. It's great for the district, don't get me wrong. It's great, but it needs to just be aware.
And through you, Madam Chair, that's why we're going to change the reporting around it. We thought you need to have visibility of the other things that are hitting that pot.
Right.
So that will be in the next report.
Thank you for that. Any further questions for Sharon, please? Okay, there's a recommendation on page 30 to receive the corporate finance team report. Someone prepared to move? Councillor Herbert, seconder please. Councillor Payne. Put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried. Thank you. That brings us to the end of the corporate policy meeting.
I think that was about all it was.
Welcome to the first meeting of the infrastructure strategy and operations for this election year, and just ask you to stand to observe a moment's silence for the passing of Chris Brock. Thank you. Right. Apologies. Do we have apologies from Mayor Cadigan, Councillors McCrosty, Mackie, McCrosty, Paul Wheeler, and Catherwood, and no mention from Councillor Mackie. I'd like to have someone prepared to move that, please. Councillor Kennedy, seconded Councillor Payne. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Declarations of interest? None. Right, so we'll go straight into item number one. All items are items for information. Item one is operations update transportation. James, all yours.
Mr. Chair, I take the report as being read. Open for any questions.
Councillor Finch.
Thank you. Page 3, they now have the option of taking this waste to Aswood site. What's that?
So there's a site on Wamux Road that they're chipping waste wood there to supply, I believe it's Dino. But they're chipping wood there, so we've got that option of delivering to them.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Kennedy.
Through Chair, two questions. One, trees on Ronahiri Road. Are they whose trees? How come we're having to deal with it?
The trees on Ronahiri Road are predominantly natives, so they're on road reserve. And they're natives, a lot of it's beech trees, and there's quite a bit of being through there. It's quite a picturesque area with the trees right up to the edge of the road, and it has been on our radar for a while, so we do a reasonably regular inspection with arborists to identify problem trees, and we will have a report about the same time as the first of the trees fell down. So they've identified some that come out, and I think they're around about this month or next month. They're going through and removing some more trees.
Do you guys want to mention the signage as well?
Yeah, so we put up some signage at the start to warn people of the possibility, but that is.
Just the other question being, because we can't do the what do they call it? The dusty roads in Kai, have those ratepayers been notified that there's going to be work on the bank, on the whatever the banks are that they're going to, the ORC are doing?
Yes, so that's an ORC job, so they're working on private property on the other side of the fence, but they will be working on will presumably be heavy machinery on the road. So there is one section of road that they will be raising to help with.
Thank you.
James, the CCT TV update, where's that? Is that in Belclutha?
Yeah, so the server is in the police station.
Oh, right.
It's their server that's based in the police station for privacy reasons.
Okay. Any further questions? Councillor.
Right, just a comment, Chairman, just, look, I think that routine truck, from what I see, does a fantastic job. And as I talked to you about before, James, it's frustrating to see the amount of signs that we have to sort of repair and replace over a 2-month period, 104. They won't all be because of vandalism, but a fair few of them will be, and that's quite a high number for a 2-month period. It's a pity we can't somehow or other inform those people that it actually costs them money to fix the sign, the damage they are doing. Just a comment.
Yeah, through you, Chair. It is obvious, and a lot of it is one particular person because, well, at each event, because you can basically follow where they've been. There'll be all the available signs you can hit with 4-wheel drive up one road, down another. So, it's clearly vandalism, multiple signs at one person, usually on a Thursday night.
Frustrating. Thank you.
Right, if there's no further questions or comments, Councillor.
I've got a question, I can't even remember seeing it here, but I don't know where else to ask. Clyde Bridge, has it been repaired yet?
Yes, the bridge has been repaired. All the handrails have been repaired, and the scaffolding should have come off this week.
Okay, thank you. I'm just, yeah, thanks for that.
So now, if there's no more comments or questions, someone prepared to move the recommendation on page 3 that the infrastructure strategy. Can I finish, please? Strategy Operations Committee receives the operations update transportation. Moved. Councillor Finch, seconded Councillor Phelps. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Move on to page 6. Item number 2, the operations update, green space, waste and compliance. Jason, welcome.
Please, as usual, I'd like to have everyone read the report and have that as accepted.
Anybody? Questions? Comments? If not, Councillor Finch.
On page 8, the Balclutha Lawn Cemetery. So, facilitating burials at all times, including public holidays, that's going to add extra cost. Is that going to be passed on?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that going to become an issue though? Do you think?
Our contractors are confident that they're able to meet that time frame, and the Muslim community are happy with the indicative costs that we have proposed that allocate costs. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, there is a proposal to bring it back to council when we finally change the design, because there are implications on the cemetery overall, because it increases the plot size. I mean, basically less plot, so we would hope to bring that to council for final decisions in the future.
Excellent. Any further questions? Councillor McAtamney.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. Jason, the trend downward in the total waste, I see 700 tonnes to date for the year. So you've given an explanation, but where's it going? I'm sure there's. Why is so much less waste going into the landfill? It's got to be 700 tonne of waste, other waste out there somewhere.
Most of it's, we did have a large forecast for clean fill that we were charging for. That was in the overall estimation. We're just not getting the clean fill. I'm not quite sure where it's coming from or where it's going, but I assume there's quite a lot of development that's not happening, and therefore that waste isn't coming in there.
Councillor Martin.
Jason, just regarding the Lawrence Playground, I see the green space contractors were up the other day, but since the area has actually been covered with the soft core protection, would that not nullify all the mowing that was meant to be happening that the community was paying for? already, and like the only green space is probably the size of these two tables here now. So I would have thought that the area that isn't in grass and isn't in wood chip now, it's all softfall, there's going to be no maintenance to that at all. So the routine maintenance should be actually less than what they've been paying for.
Yes and no. So softfall has a maintenance regime applied to it. Grass also has a maintenance regime applied to it. If there is less grass, then yeah, there would be a reduction in that, but there would be a net increase in the maintenance and general inspection of the softball.
Then can you explain a bit more about the maintenance of the softball? It's brand new, comes with a 15-year warranty.
Yeah, so things like cleaning, moss removal, algae removal, if there's trees nearby, that sort of thing becomes slippy, it becomes a hazard, that sort of thing. Inspections overall, someone's got to go there and inspect it, do minor repairs. If there is some vandalism, someone decided to set fire for it, I'm sure it won't happen in Lawrence, but the contractor would have to go out there and do that. We would ask the contractor to provide a quotation for what that would look like, and then they would provide that and then a net cost of that. So all those things have to be factored in to maintain it. There is a maintenance regime applied to soft surface in order for it to carry on being a soft surface going forward.
Oh no, because I've actually had to mow the lawns myself in the playground because the contractor wasn't turning up to do it. So it'll be an interesting watch.
I can certainly, I don't know what the value is of the net two, but obviously we'll go back to the contractor with variation because it's a change in design. And if the contractor comes back and says there's a net deficit or a net increase or whatever those, I'm more than happy to share that. I just don't know what those costs are today.
Thank you.
Councillor Phelps.
Through the chair. Jason, I'm probably not too sure if it's the right time to ask, but just through my other job, we've had a lot of builders querying about Mount Cooey, about a bit of nervousness, talk about closing and so forth. I'm just wondering if there any communication to the builders because they, they're pricing up jobs. I don't know if they can take waste there in the future. Just wondering if there's some sort of communication go out to them saying sort of the confirmation that
I think we can do that, yeah.
Status quo.
Chat with Diane, just have some press release on what our future waste minimisation and how Mount Cooey fits into that. I think that's a fairly reasonable request to ask you.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we have heard rumours of things going around that haven't been true either. So whether that's what's got to the builders, but what will be coming back to council will be a decision report on the 20th of February around Mount Cooey. So all that information will be available in the public as well. So it's probably worth having a discussion after that.
Thank you.
Right, further comments or questions? Councillor Kennedy.
I have a question, wood chip. Yeah, it was wood chip. Yeah. So I've got to be careful how I ask the question.
In what context wood chip? What just excuse me?
Playground wood chip.
Also impact absorbing on safety surface, not wood chip.
Well, that's what it's called, wood chip. Playground.
That's my.
Okay. What my question is, the wood chip that's used in one should be used in all?
The wood chip or the impact absorbing safety surface has a specific design characteristic applied to it under set standards, so it should be on all playgrounds, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Herbert, followed by.
So I'll just carry on for that. So we've got the one in Tapanui that's got that, and then Councillor Kennedy and I drive through Clinton today and see it's got wood chips on it. So that's where the question comes from.
A lot of money.
So what surface you use for under a playground, it entirely depends on the piece of equipment that you use and what risk it has, what you're going to use. So it depends on fall height. It's quite technical elements of it. So you can have the same playground in Lawrence that has one surface and a playground in different as wood chip. It's the same. It applies the same principle. Yeah, it's to prevent head trauma. Yeah.
So what if you gave the kids crash
If you wanted to.
So that's
So safety surface is designed to prevent head trauma. So if someone would fall off a piece of equipment and bash their head, the surface and what it's made out of is there to take that energy away. Now you can do that with rubber, you can do that with tiles, you can do that with wood chip, you can do that with a whole range of products. The standard of impact protection it offers is not different one between the other. One just looks better than the other. Like wood chip's really good in a natural environment. You don't want rubber in a site that's kind of in a natural environment, whereas really interesting wet pour rubber, for example, is you can have all sorts of designs in it, that sort of thing. But it does essentially do the same job.
But to be clear, Mr. Chairman, because it's very not clear, Tapanui is not wood chip, it's that long word you described.
Impact absorbing safety surface.
It's coloured the same in that, but it's not wood chip. But the site in, what was the other one you described? Clinton is wood chip.
Yes.
So I just
this
wanted to
is where our question comes from. They've both just been done at a similar time.
Yes.
We've had to use the fancy stuff,
and the difference is the fancy stuff was because there's some higher height structures. Is that what you're saying, Jason?
It would have been provided based on the design of the playground, yes.
and someone gives that, an expert.
Stacey is our expert at this moment in time. He has been on the playground safety course, yes, so he would have provided the design specs for that.
I could understand part of it, maybe, but not the whole thing. Because there's, you know, when you're paying $17,000 for wood chip, and there's quite a number of loads that have to go in there, so it's not enough yet. So, you know, it's a lot of an expense for. It's all right. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm more than happy to get clarification on
that
playground, but there is a guarantee.
It's just different ones in the community have asked because we are from a forestry area, so we could have got it, but because it was stipulated, it had to be specified as special wood chip that came from Milton.
Yes, it's a wood chip that meets a certain design specification. Yes.
Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome, Jason. Look, I'm asking a question that's not in your report, and it's on the chance that you have some intel on it. On Johnston Road, there's currently been a weighbridge built on a property, and I'm suspect that is built there to weigh clean fill, and it's going to get dumped over a bank on that property. Have you got any intel on that? Nothing at all.
No, the only thing I can tell you, if you wanted to operate a clean fill landfill,
yes,
you would need to meet the same requirements through ORC as you would do for.
So that would have gone through ORC.
It would have had to have a consent applied to it. Yes.
Councillor Finch.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. On page 9, the Millennium Track, so it's closed.
Yes.
Has it got signs at both ends, at the Tory mouth plus the Henley's end?
I believe the Henley end has a dock sign on it because they own that bit, and we have a sign on the Tarry Mouth side. Yes.
Right. Thank you.
I think Stacey checks that every month, maybe, yeah, or certainly every few weeks. Because he disappears for a bit and he tells me he's down there, so I believe him.
Thank you.
Right. Further questions or comments? No. Back to page 6 for the recommendation that the Infrastructure Strategy and Operations Committee receives the operations update, green space and waste in compliance. Someone prepared to move that. Councillor Burke, seconded. Councillor Payne. All those in favour? Good. Pass. Carried. On to page 16. Item number 3, operations update, water. Linda, welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to present our report and happy to take questions.
Questions, Councillor Herbert.
Thanks, Linda. So the new I&I inspection program and the report we've got there, when I look at the graph, it's got Herrick, Nawaka and Tapanui and all there with the green and blue, but then down there it's got them completed.
Oh, sorry, that's the planned inspection, sorry, through you, Mr Chair, that's the inspection schedule for this year. So
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my question. So that those two things don't relate to each other.
No. So the graph shows the current numbers.
Yep.
compared
So if I
to when we
look at
started
period,
the process.
it was 63 December 21, and now there's 10 left to do.
Correct.
Yep, I'm reading it right. So I was thinking those two were connected. No, thank you, that's good.
And the inspections were due to be done this month, last month, and are complete.
Any further questions? Councillor Lewis.
Just the Stirling, the upgrade down there. Have we hit a date when that's going to be sorted?
So through you, Mr Chair, the work, so we've got the concrete pour, so the concrete is curing, the nozzles are in, we're waiting now for the media to go in, and there's a trough that's being manufactured, fabricated, I should say, and we're waiting for that. So the media can't go until the trough's in, and then we'll start the commissioning, and that will come. So we're hoping to have physical works done by the end of next week, and then we'll start commissioning and flushing and sampling.
Any further questions? If not, back to page 16.
I just want to give you an update.
Oh, sorry.
Before you jump into your motion, you've seen a bit of scurrying around in the room, which I apologise if that's been distracting. We've been requested by one of our rural scheme chairs to put a boil water notice onto the Richardson South scheme this afternoon, just in the interest of stock management. So we have had some difficulties at the plant. They appear to be resolved, but we have had to turn the flow back down, and that means the stock aren't getting water, because they've had those issues over the last couple of days, and with the long weekend ahead, they've asked us to put a boil water notice on and turn the flow up, so we'll be producing non-compliant water. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. That unfortunately affects Kaka Point as well. Most unfortunate when there's a long weekend to have to put a tanker into Kaka Point. But in the interest of safety,
for the long weekend.
That will be for the long weekend.
And however long it takes us to.
How long it takes us to sort the. So we had two issues. One has been resolved. The other one is resolved by keeping the production down. And now we've got to the stage where the farmers are unhappy, given they've used their storage over the last few days.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Donna, Linda, sorry. How does that, how do you get on there with the regulators? Like, that is a common sense approach for animal welfare issues. So how, as the, your role in council, is there a process you have to go back to the regulator, and can you just give us a bit of a brief overview of that?
Yes, certainly, through you, Mr Chair. We do actually have a process for any boil water notification, and usually because of particular issues, so this is no different, except we're making a conscious decision here to produce quantity of water over quality for stock management. We called it a drought plan last year, but it's the same kind of theory. We've socialised that with Te Mara Arawai, so they're aware that we will always, if there is a call around stock, that will be the priority.
So just to put through you, Mr Chairman, the Purura Reservoir has not been over 75% in the last 7 days. It's been bouncing from empty to climb and then back down again. There's been more issues. So over time, that 2 days of storage gets lower and lower when there's outages on the scheme. And obviously, the Chairman's getting a number of phone calls from customers. So.
Oh, certainly, like I said, it's a common sense approach, which is very rare in today's society, but and also with the regulators, that's why I was quite keen that the regulators, because we're dealing with animal welfare issues here as well as human welfare issues. So, yeah, good on you.
Yes, so through you, Mr Chair, so we have to do a report after any boil water notice, so this will be no different, and that will be our basis is stock management.
So just clarifying that is the water scheme.
Richardson South, which includes a supply to Kaka Point.
It's the water scheme committee that is
They
asked for it,
requested
requested it. Yep, thank you. Councillor Herbert.
Just worth remembering why those schemes were put in originally. They were put in as stock schemes. So that fits in with the original reason they were put in. Just reminding you.
Any further questions or comments? If not, back to page 16. Someone prepared to move the recommendation that the Infrastructure Strategy and Operations Committee receives the operations update water.
Seems to be a lot of heavy hands today, Mr. Chair, but I'll get me to move.
Well, when you're down to 9, I suppose, you better get used to it. Councillor Payne, second. Councillor Phelps. All those in favour? Carried. On to page 22, is it? Item number 4, compliance update report. Daniel.
Very appropriate time. Good afternoon. I'm here to present the compliance update report and take any questions that you may have.
Questions, gentlemen and ladies? No?
Just like to point out through you, Mr. Chair, on page 24, that the Purua water treatment plant's been generally compliant for most of the last 6 months.
No questions? No comments? Councillor Herbert.
Oh, I have.
Of course you have.
Hearing one, that's just nitrate, isn't it? That column that's got the no at the bottom. Nitrogen. Page 40. They purposely put it right at the end so I wouldn't see it.
That's correct. Yeah.
Sorry? Is that usual to find that in a rural setting like that? Is that well, this has been going on for a little while, sort of figuring out what's causing it. Is something that's a fertiliser or something that's causing that? Or animal feces or something that's causing that?
Ammoniacal nitrogen. Yes, it's ammoniacal nitrogen, so it also comes from human effluent as well. And if the limit's relatively low, then and it's concentrated in terms of the volumes going through the plant, that could raw effluent is definitely a lot higher than that. So this is again part of the working through the supplier about how much of that we're removing. You will note too that some of that we have commented previously, when we get into the middle of winter, sometimes our reduction of ammoniacal nitrogen and even total nitrogen isn't as effective at lower temperatures. And it's interesting to note that during the summer, we're actually compliant. So we need to definitely look at the reduction of ammoniacal nitrogen through that winter period.
Thank you.
Further questions? If not, back to page 22 for the recommendation that we receive the compliance update report. Someone prepared to move it? Councillor Herbert. Seconded. Councillor Martin. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. On to page
48.
48. Just flying through it. We'll be home in time to watch the chase. Item number 5, infrastructure strategy and delivery update. Welcome, Donna.
Good afternoon, everybody. So through the chair, I'll just take it that the report's been tabled and that you've read it and open for questions and discussions.
Questions for Donna? No. Comments for Donna? No, if not, we'll start. Oh, thank you. Councillor McAtemney.
Just on that, the land treatment investigations. Have you, sort of on the side, have you been following Queenstown dramas and with their land treatment at the Shotover? Are we sort of watching that from afar, just trying to understand what's gone wrong there and whether we might potentially have those same issues?
Through you, the chair, we're currently in very early investigated stages at this point in time. I've personally not done any sort of discussions with Queenstown, but we certainly can.
Because it seems to me that has failed, basically.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, Queenstown's almost, I mean, that's not a land treatment system either. It's almost like a land contact before discharge, which we've got wetlands, we've got other things like that around our area as well, but they're not. It's a considerably different situation than what we're proposing for potentially some of our land treatment options. And the other update on that is we have been advised that this month the proposed new standards for continued discharge to water are supposed to be made public. So we'll be looking for that with interest to see what that means for us in terms of the new NES, and whether that means there's a significant cost difference between land treatment and upgrades to continue to discharge to water. So hopefully we'll start to get that information that's critical to nailing those costs down.
Yeah. So they just haven't used enough land. We've been using far more land than what to spread it out everywhere to do that.
I'd hate to get into the detail, but my understanding is it's a little bit of land contact before it's discharged to the river rather than a land treatment process. That's my understanding of what Queenstown's set up is.
Councillor Finch.
Thank you. On page 53, CDC provided some feedback and their extensions to proposed intra-district routes and how it will provide for transport disadvantaged people. Doing what exactly do we know? Is it by a bus? Is it by, do we have any idea about that?
Through you, the chair. So this is an ORC project where we were just invited to, as stakeholders, make recommendations. They were currently, my understanding, proposing to go just as far as Balclutha, and we've proposed that we continue the route right through Clinton and possibly further south as well. I don't 100% understand what kind of public transport they're suggesting at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. And your Taylor Park cabins, you're in the midst of the final negotiations for the additional 2 cabins being purchased, but the price is slightly less than the prior 4, due to not all fixtures and fittings being included. What are they missing, those ones?
Through you, Chair, my understanding it's some decking and potential some of the internal fittings as well.
Okay. So have those ones been put out there to the market now?
Through you, Chair, I believe they have. Apologies, it hasn't actually been handled within my team, this aspect, but that's my understanding.
Thank you.
Councillor Phelps.
Through the chair, Donna, just on page 56 with the fleet, let's see, we're buying more vehicles. Are we dropping some as well?
Through you, Chair, so the team are currently doing a whole lot of investigation work associated with that on ways that we can potentially help reduce costs for council, and there's some information and reports coming up through the Chief Exec very shortly. It's first steps of findings, but we have found some significant opportunities.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, there's 7 vehicles that are going to be put up for sale as a result of those ones, and there'll be more once those other new vehicles arrive. So we are selling our old ones as well as replacement vehicles.
Sorry, I had another one.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 things. I'll just carry on from Councillor Phelps. Sort of the vehicles is one thing I had there. I just wondered, and we talked about it before, is it when we're having a big changeover of vehicles like that, is it a good time to perhaps revisit the sign writing we do and perhaps make that a little bit more discreet and a little bit smaller? I know a lot of businesses have a little bit at the bottom instead of a big bit on the door. And I just think at times it's a very visual thing amongst our communities, and people seem to take issue with it at times. So I just wondered whether it was a good time to perhaps review that sign writing on the vehicles.
Well, the fleet team have proposed 3 options, the existing one and 2 alternatives that Steve and I have reviewed, and we've agreed we're going to change the sign writing. We're not going to make it smaller, but we're going to get rid of that big black area, so it's not quite so bold and in your face. So it is going to change, and it is going to look slightly different and not quite as prominent as the current sign writing, but not making it tiny right at the bottom where as soon as you drive on a gravel road for 2 minutes, you're not going to see the sign writing.
What's wrong with that? Anyway, my second thing is, and this is about the discharge of land and the wastewater and things. When a few of us went to the Zone 5 and 6 meeting, it was kind of reinforced to us that it was our decision whether we went to discharge the land. We weren't going to be told to, it was our decision. So I'm kind of wondering, are we wasting sort of time and effort continuing on with engagement and going down a process when perhaps we won't be doing it?
We don't have a choice, Mr. Chairman. So when you say it's, they tell you that it's going to be your choice, they forget to give consideration to existing resource consents that specifically require you to do things. There is still an outstanding question that the ORC hasn't yet answered, which is, what are they doing about existing consents when they are giving consideration to all these changes? So what we're acting upon, when you're hearing the actions we're taking, it's because we've got consents that tell us thou must do this and this, including specifically, let's say for Waihola, discharge to land. It's a consent condition that requires us to investigate and work with EV on that. And in fact, craft an activity management plan on the basis of that. So what we've said is, that's okay, we will proceed along those lines. And one of the reasons why we are is actually we've done a lot of work that highlight that the existing, original budgets and forecasts of expenditure for land disposal has significantly changed with the further research that we've done, and those costings have been quite significantly and dramatically reduced. So that helps us while we're working our way through this. But until someone legally comes back with the answer that says, what happens if the government changes the standard to a lower standard or whatever, that, their idea of a package plant or something that's standardised that goes into the water environment. I don't think that's actually going to happen for all environments, but let's just say that's the vision. So you've got that as an opportunity, but your consents say something totally different that says you've got to do this. What happens? That hasn't been answered, and the Regional Council's been asked to sort that one out, because we're currently working to timeframes and requirements and things that we could get enforcement action taken upon us for non-completion, for exactly the sort of things that you're talking about, Councillor. So we're trying to run the middle line of what makes sense, what should we be doing, and it might possibly be that the end result, let's say for Waihola, of land disposal actually is the most economical option, and therefore also the best environmental option too. So, win-win. We're exploring and working our way through that while we get the information around the actual standards that they're suggesting, and also what's the legal position relating to existing consent.
Just to clarify, it wasn't me talking about it, it was Ellen Pregnant who
yes, yeah,
right. Kind of ROI saying, and it sounded, so those of us that were there, it sounded very simplistic. It's like going to the library. You said you just pull out the book and take out what you want, and you choose what application you want, and so it sounded wonderful. It wasn't me. I was just taking the pictures and reading and taking the notes.
Well, we have to remember that we are answerable to the regulatory authority. There's two of them, and the one that issues the consents that we are answerable to is the Regional Council. And until that gets resolved, you can't be quite as simple as saying, that's the answer.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, too, we actually think there's going to need to be a debate about discharge to water and land treatment. And here's the cost for this, and here's the cost for this. So what makes sense? So I don't think we'll be in a good position to have discussion with EBI or anybody if we don't at least understand what those land treatment costs are going to be. And we've done a whole lot of the background work. We're actually really close. Within the next 4 weeks, we should have revised, updated estimates of land treatment for all of our sites, including the distance and possible land areas and all those sorts of things. So we'll be in a really good position when these new standards come out to have those discussions and say, actually, where does it make more sense to do one versus the other?
Councillor Payne. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, my question's around 1.5 Clutha District Water Supply Scheme strategy. I've always been a bit of a fan of this, so I'm really pleased to see you going to do the feasibility study, I guess. So, and I can see some real financial benefit long term if you look at the big picture. So, I'm just wondering, is it a 1 month, 1 year, a 10-year? Once you get the feasibility study done, the strategy's what? What's it going to look like? Have you got any thoughts on that right now? I guess.
Through you, Chair, it's sort of going to depend on what the discoverables are and then how it would potentially feed into the current long-term plan or possible annual plans, depending on the outcome. I know that's a bit of a vague response, but until we get the
And will it
facts.
just stop with drinking water, or will we move into sewerage and everything as well? Because I see opportunity there as well.
At the moment, we're just focusing on the water supplies, but I can certainly talk to the team about considering waste as well.
One bite at a time.
Mm,
Yeah.
Just further to that, Ken, I think you probably have to know some of the answers to the wastewater
Absolutely.
solutions.
Absolutely.
Because
But I mean,
those two there look like they probably would involve a substantial amount of debt, but there's quite a lot of pipe.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need
big
the
picture.
answers to that first before you get too deep.
Do that.
Councillor Finch.
Thank you. Can you just remind me, what is the deal with the Milton to Tokawiti water network extension? Why is that being done? And then it'll take away from the North Bruce Rural Water Scheme, so to put their units up. So why is this being looked at? Can't remember. Sorry, bottom of page 68, beginning of 69.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, this was a project that was approved by council a couple of years ago. The primary reason is that it's needed for firefighting flows for a very large subdivision that's very near Tokawiti. So there's been no decision to connect the Tokawiti customers to that extension line. That's still further work that needs to be done. And are they going to be on-demand customers like Milton? Are they going to stay restricted? All that work's yet to be done. But the pipeline needs to be in for fire flows for any further stages of that subdivision. So that was approved for that, but it would not make sense to do that work and not make provision for Tokawiti for the future. So there's no impact on North Bruce. There's been no decision to change those Tokawiti customers at this stage, but there is provision in that pipeline for them for the future.
So where will it be tanks? And will they be, ground height, or what's the?
So the pipe work currently for the subdivision is it's on demand, like any customer in Milton. Those decisions about what happens for Tokawiti haven't been made. So it could be they stay as restricted customers, because we currently have restricted and on-demand urban customers across the district. So none of those decisions have been made, and the only project that we're currently progressing is what council has approved to extend the fire mains around. But I think we would be really silly not to look at what would happen in Tokawiti to make sure we can connect those into those pipes. So we've made provision for that for the future, but the primary aim of that project is to enable a very large subdivision to have adequate pipe capacity for fire flows. Council also resolved that anyone connecting to that pipeline will make an extra contribution to pay back the cost of that pipe as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions, comments? If not, back to page 48 for the recommendation that we receive the infrastructure strategy and delivery update. Someone prepared to move that, Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor McAtamney. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. That brings the meeting to an end. Thank you and enjoy your Waitangi Day.